And welcome to One Stop Co-op Shop. This is Steve. I'm here with Bairnt. Hey, Bairnt.
Hey, Steve. I'm glad to be back. Sorry I missed last week. I had to uh, go back in time about 300 or 400 years to the Renaissance Festival last weekend, so I was not able to make it. But we had a great time there. Sorry I missed the chat. I did get to watch it. It was really good, and I appreciate you being able to let me do that. And it's good to be back.
Welcome. Glad you made it back to time. That time travel can have bad side effects, I've heard, right?
I just started running 88 miles an hour, and then my force capacity kicked in. Boom! Back here I come.
Get some flame trails behind your feet. I love
That's right.
it. Awesome. Well, welcome. This is your first time joining. This is our co-op chat. It's our weekly cooperative game chat where we cover some upcoming news and have a fun discussion topic. So let's and then discussion topic we're gonna talk about is early birds because I know we're talking about that on our Discord. I thought it'd be kind of fun to pull into here and kind of continue the conversation a bit. So we got a poll going. Feel free to answer that poll. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of caveats to that question I posted. I'm like, well, I can see a lot of maybes and well,
Yeah,
if this, if that, but that's gonna be the fun part of the discussion, I think.
that's right.
Okay. All right, let's jump into the upcoming news. So the first thing I have to talk about is this game called Perpetuity, Descent. So this is launching in 3 days. Coming to Kickstarter, October 12th. And let me my notes here real quick. Here we go. It is a 1 to 5 player cooperative game where you are trying to build up your ships and your workers and your resources to go out to various planets and save these alien races before the worlds blow up. So I love the theme of this one. It sounds awesome. The theme.
Sounds like something noble.
Yeah, for sure. So you have to balance between keeping your ship and your everything operational and managing limited resources and actually going on the rescue missions. So it sounds pretty cool. It can be played competitive, cooperative, and I assume solo as well.
Hmm.
So yes, no, I said I heard about it, but didn't find much that would wow me about this game so far. Yeah, it's there's not a whole lot of information like I could find either. But like you said, the premise is really cool. It's like, hey, Superman, let me save you, right? So,
Oh, it's better than that. Oh, what show was I watching the other day where Superman wasn't exactly super? But anyway, go ahead.
oh, interesting. Like evil Superman.
It was a really cool show. I forget what it's called. But it is not for kids. It's like a cartoon, not for kids type thing.
Ah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so that one's launching in a couple days. Let's talk about another one. This one I'm very, very excited for a couple of reasons. Because one, it looked really cool, and two, because Mike's been playing it and been loving it. This one is Paint the Roses. So this is a
Oh,
cooperative puzzle game. Theme is kind of based off Alice in Wonderland, where you have to go paint the rose garden, and you're trying to do so to make the queen happy. If not, she chases after you, and off we head. Right. so, this one's a little
no,
hard to. Go ahead, Baron.
it's not as noble.
No, it's not as noble. No, it's true. Yeah, it's a 2 to 5 player cooperative game. Logic deduction. It sounds like you need to provide hints of what you know without actually saying what you have, and because it's all about like guessing these whims, right? And if you guess correctly, cool. You get close to winning. If you guess incorrectly, the queen moves twice as fast and tries to catch up to you. So I've heard it's kind of something similar to Hanabi in the puzzle nature, not mechanically necessarily, but just in puzzle nature.
No.
Oh yeah, and it is so Snow mentioned it is not soloable, right? Yep,
Yes.
which makes sense for this one, right? What do you mean by not noble? Noble people tug off heads. Good point, Snow. Good point. There's nobility in the game. There you go. Yep. So that one, I am very excited for as well. So this one, I curious what the price point is, but this is one I'm probably gonna back. All right.
I will not be backing that one.
Okay.
It just doesn't. The other theme sounds more up my alley than this one.
Oh yeah, you're totally a sci-fi person. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, that's not my person. What are you talking about?
What's this alien thing? I'm not really sure about this movie. Let me quote the whole movie for you right now.
That's right.
Okay, I'm gonna transition to something that's kind of a game, kind of more than a game. So this is OLEM. It is a game that's played with a robot, and it's kind of a weird one to list on here because it is competitive, solo, and cooperative all in one. And it's different because the robot actually drives around on the board space you have. And there's a bunch of different games you can play with this. So I list on here because some of the games are cooperative, but some are competitive. So this is not a fully cooperative in the sense that all the content's cooperative. But yeah, I thought it was kind of an interesting one. I don't know about this a whole lot. I don't know if I want a robot driving around on my table. I'm not sure how this would work with like long distance connectivity. That's an option. A lot of unknowns about this, but I want to bring it to your attention because that was kind of a cool concept. So,
It's solo, co-op, and competitive all in one.
well, it depends on the games you're playing, I think, because there are a bunch of. So it's not just like the robot you're buying, but you're buying the robot with a bunch of other games that go with it. How good the games are, I don't know. So it's
Too bad you
more.
didn't find out about this one till for last week because
What's
your
that?
co-op. Too bad you didn't find out about this game last week.
Well, kind of. I think it's more. There's more that these are separate games inside of this,
Oh, okay.
right? So you kind of buying this system, and the system comes with games, and you try it out. And I guess the concept is you'll be able
Oh,
to
gotcha. Okay.
expand the
So you kind of
system. So
perfect. So you kind of just whatever the program is that's in there is the type of game you're playing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Gotcha.
Snow like looks like a bit like a vacuum cleaner, like a Roomba. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. Don't know a whole lot about it. It's hard to figure all the details out yet, but I'm sure when the Kickstarter launches, we'll take a closer look at that. That's
Now Roombas are pretty cool until they hit your sock underneath the bed. Then the Roomba stops.
that's true. I've seen some hilariously bad videos where like people like duct tape like a knife to a Roomba and it drives around like, oh my gosh, it's alive.
Oh, that sounds like a very bad idea.
It's a really bad idea. So, oh my goodness. Anyway, let's move on to one more I have to discuss. That one is Block with two Ks, the 3D board game. So this one, you are working together to create a cube, and you're not able to pick the pieces you want necessarily. So there's a combination of like sometimes you can pick the exact piece you want, sometimes you have to pick a piece of a different color, and so you have to try to work together trying to figure out how do I get the right pieces to build it correctly to get this block shape in the end. So much more abstract, but a co-op one to four players.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's just no mention. So 3D Tetris. That is a good description of it. It's kind of what my understanding. Something like a Tetris game, but 3D and for co-op on the board. So not really my style game, but could be cool. But yeah, those are the upcoming games this week for on the cooperative side that I wanted to mention. So I think the first two are the ones I'm most excited for. So we'll see. Okay. Cool. Now let's transition from our news overview into our discussion topic. Where's my thing? So turn that off. Cool. Okay. What are we talking about today? We're talking about early birds. So
Yes, early birds. The early bird gets the worm, and potentially
exactly.
you don't even get the worm if you're not early enough.
That's right. So what are we talking about? We're talking about if on a lot of Kickstarter. Well, I feel like a lot of Kickstarters nowadays are many of them, I should say, maybe not a lot of them, but many of them do have this. Hey, if you back within the first 72 hours to the first 100 backers with the first week of backing this, you will get this bonus. It could be like a cost reduction. It could be an alternate art. Could be something mechanical to the game. Whatever, right? It could vary a lot. But basically, the point is drive attention up front and early, and then later on, you may or may not be able to get it depending on how they set it up. And so I think this kind of stemmed from we were talking about the game recently, Keep the Heroes Out. I have that on the screen there.
Okay.
A game that's currently on Kickstarter because that one had a 72-hour bonus. So if you join within the first 72 hours, you got a Cthulhu expansion for free. If you're outside that window, that expansion you can still buy, but it was like $15. So it wasn't free anymore. So it kind of incentivized people to jump on with the first 72 hours. And then Bairnt, you mentioned like Nemesis had something like that too.
Yeah, actually, this is actually a really good topic, and this is the perfect example of this. Nemesis had if you backed within the first day, you got a character called the Medic for free. Now, the reason why that's a pro is you get a character to play for free. That's fantastic. Now they did give you the option later to buy it for, I think it was $15, £15, whatever the monetary what they were doing for it. I think it was pounds, or not pounds, sorry, euros or something. I don't know, whatever. The funny thing is I actually, this was like still early in my like, oh, should I back things? I'm not exactly sure. I was still kind of newish to Kickstarter, and I saw it, and if it didn't have the alien motif, I probably never would have backed since the beginning. But the issue with this sometimes early bird thing is at that point, after I found the Kickstarter, it had already passed. And so I kind of went, well, I totally missed out on this first time thing. So the Medic seems, I'm not going to ever play this class unless I want to buy it for 15. And at the time I was like, I had a small budget for games. I was kind of like, I don't really want to know, because I still had a lot of other hobbies at the time. Of course, now my hobbies have grown more towards gaming boards than actually gaming in general with other things. So this wasn't, it wasn't something I was thinking about backing, and I almost did not back Nemesis because I missed the early bird pledge. And so having that early bird pledge, I've noticed, helps, but it also could potentially hinder. I mean, I still
Mm-hmm.
did back it at the end because it did have the aliens theme, and I was like, this is too close to a cool aliens game. I better back this. I mean, imagine if I didn't back Nemesis. I mean, that's one of my favorite games of all time. I mean, I probably wouldn't even be the man I am today if I did not back Nemesis. I mean, that's how awesome that game is. No, it is an interesting thing because I wonder how many people they lose out because of having these day one backer things, or the 72-hour thing or something, because you just don't know. But I wonder on the flip side if that helps them, because if they can get a strong number at the beginning, they have an idea of kind of what to expect going forward with the game. Because you have a lot of these pledges, these games. I mean, Nemesis, a lot of the ones we're talking about, I don't think were ever going to have an issue backing, or reaching their pledge level. You know what I mean? But there could have been ones out there that don't have day one things, and they're not sure if they're going to make it. And if they had that day one thing, they'd realize, oh, hey, we got like 90% of our funding in one day. And so most likely then we might get another 10% through the rest of the month or less of the 2 weeks. So I think we should be good if they had the day one pledge stuff. I mean, Madara, again, I've never talked about this game. I think the second Kickstarter they had a day one pledge thing, and like they just went through the roof. And then they really didn't make much more past that. Like it wasn't the steady growth. It was just an instant spike, and then it just kind of stayed there, and kind of a little bit at the end. Because again, with the day one pledge, they now knew what they were getting into and
Right.
what they were going to get for the game. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. Personally, I don't mind day one stuff as long as I remember to get there day one.
Yeah, and I think Nick just mentioned this. I think this is the reason for doing it is getting that traffic up front draws a lot of attention to it and plays the analytics game, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it will get promoted more, you get more people, right? So that first few days of a Kickstarter are very, very important, and it sets the stage for the success for the rest of it. So that's why having some incentive up front is desirable from a campaign organizer perspective, right? So
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So yeah, I think it's pretty clear from that standpoint why do it. And I guess the other side standpoint is from a customer base standpoint, like us when we're backing games, is that a good thing or bad thing? And I think there's good ways of going about it and definitely bad ways of going about it as well. Like you just mentioned the Nemesis one, the medic. Did you say you can get it after the fact if you missed the
You
window?
could buy it as an add-on for like 15 monetary, what a value of whatever they put their monetary value at. I forget what it was.
Yeah, yeah. So same thing as keep the heroes out, right? In that sense, right?
Guess who doesn't own the Medic?
Oh, you
I like
don't?
protested. I kind of protested it. I was like, dang it, I didn't get it the first day. I'm not going to pledge this thing. I'm not going to get the Medic. I failed to get it day one. It just is so hard for me. Like, well, I missed it day one, so now I got to spend 15 on it. I know it's only $15, but I mean, imagine if it's something else like a $50 like upgrade kit or something, and it's dang it, I missed it day one. Well, now I feel like it's not worth it to buy it because I could have got it for free. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that is the interesting point you brought up, and I see this coming up a lot. Like, it's not the fact that you can't get it. It's just like, well, I didn't get it for free, so now I don't want that promotion item, or I don't want the game completely, which is interesting. And Nick just mentioned I've not backed games because of early birds before. I hate paying more for the same stuff. I understand it. Yeah, which is interesting. Like, I see this come up a lot,
Mhm.
and we start talking about other. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can approach early birds as well. Um, Snow mentioned I tend to miss early birds when I get absorbed into other Kickstarters, and when those fall flat for me, get to a Kickstarter and I didn't mean to look at, but might find it interesting, but with a missed early bird. Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, because the early birds, the problem with them, and whatever you have to know about upfront, right? And there's so many games come out nowadays. It's so easy to miss things all the time,
Mhm.
right? And I know we
If
try
it
to
wasn't for
like
you, Steve, I would miss. If it wasn't for you, Steve, I would miss so many things.
well, I miss things all the time, and that's kind of why for the news section, I focus specifically on cooperative stuff because that's a very narrow focus. It's normally like only like 3 or 4 games every week, which is a lot if it's just cooperative, to be honest, right? But like it would be so much harder to cover more than that and miss games, and I don't know. It's very very easy to miss all that stuff. Just Snow had some comments up front that I want to bring up. He said, I see it mostly with monetary stretch goal Kickstarters, just to get you funding and start with the stretch goals to drive the hype through them, which is true. It
Mhm.
says it's for sure hinders when people come late, and there was an early bird. But yeah, I see it a lot, but I think they gain more people in the early birds, which I think is true, right? The interesting thing about Kickstarter, though, like, you're not committing the money until the pledge ends or the campaign ends,
Right.
right? And so it's kind of a weird idea because like there's an early bird, I could just throw money at it, make sure I get within the early bird window, and then sometime later I can decide to drop my pledge, right? Which is counter to what they're trying to do, um, and you don't lose anything by doing that. But I don't know, it's a weird situation, right? It's I don't know. I'm curious how many people actually do that. I know for me, sometimes I'll pledge something that looks interesting to me, but I haven't really taken time to deep dive into it. That's early bird. And later on, I might drop it, but I'm interested up front. I'm not just pledging money just because of early bird on it.
Or on the opposite side, Steve, you've got the people that like, well, we're jumping on this early bird just so I make sure I get it. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're like working and all of a sudden, oh, it funded. You're like, what funded? Oh my gosh, I totally forgot I backed this on day one. Like,
Exactly,
28 days
exactly.
later, this like thing kicks in. I know that's happened to me, I think once. Now I've gotten a little bit better on that. I don't know what game it was that happened to, but obviously I think I probably was going to back it anyway. But I was like, oh, I totally forgot about that game. But I know talking to Colin, that's happened to him once. He's like, well, I guess I own this game now. I totally forgot about that game. And
For
looking at it
sure,
more,
for
he's kind of like, oh,
sure.
I wish I. He actually thinks he probably should have backed out of a certain game, and I've done the same. Where I'm like, maybe I should back out of this game, and then it funds. You're like, well, it's coming. That'll be great. I mean, and I probably liked it anyway because I usually have a tendency to like a lot of games. So there's a flip side where you could potentially forget that you jumped in on first day. So you wonder how many like on both sides that there is. Does it balance
Right,
each other out, like the ones that jump in and then cancel last minute, or the
right.
ones that jump in and totally forget about it, and all of a sudden, pow, they got a game.
Yeah, Nick mentioned that it's a good point here. So early bird is a symptom of Kickstarter as a whole. It's a pre-order and marketing platform more than an actual funding mechanism for most games, which honestly is true. I think Kickstarter started off as being, hey, let's get some stuff funded, but now it is the place to look for new games, right? I mean, there's a lot of companies that have campaigns on there that honestly don't need it. Like Simon, for example,
Yeah.
they could easily just say, hey, I'm making this game, and people would buy it, right? Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it also depends a lot on how many games you actually back, which is true, right? Sure. Now, I think
Yeah.
there's lots of different forms of early birds I want to get into. Like the ones we've already talked about have been the time based, 72 hours. Those I'm more open to than the one of the other ones I've seen, which is like the first 100 people backers. Those drive me nuts, right? Because you could be like, oh, I'm on vacation. I'm hiking in the woods. I don't have signal, right? Or worse yet, like, hey, I'm in a different time zone. I'm sleeping. And sure enough, the first 100 people, whenever it happen to go live, jump on it and you don't have a chance. Or you're not going to wake up at 3 a.m. to back a game. That's just not going to happen, right? So those drive me absolutely nuts. I hate seeing those. I don't see that as being a good thing whatsoever. But I think having a decent window is at least a better option than that. Then there's another version of it, and Freedom 5 did this. That's why I had the image on up here, where if you joined a newsletter before the campaign even started, you got a foil version of the cards, which is pretty cool. Now, that was not a mechanically different aspect, but it was just a cosmetic thing, right? On the downside there is I don't think you could get the foil cards in the actual campaign. It was only if you knew about it before the campaign started, which is
What? That's just hilarious. You know, how far along is this going to be? I mean, I know GameFound sends you out those things that say like, "Hey, this is coming soon." Are they going to start saying like, "Hey, and if you click now, you can get like"? I know they had one where if you like had signed up to GameFound, you got $5 off, but that was whether or not you signed up or not. I mean, you were going to sign up anyway in order to be part of the platform anyway, most likely. But
right.
even like, oh, hey, this game's coming out in 2 years. If you sign up for our newsletter right now, you're going to have a chance at an extra little miniature that is sun dropped for you. I mean, really? I mean, that far out in advance, I guess. I mean, I guess again, you're looking for how, as a person who, as a manufacturer and a person producing the game, you're looking at support already before the game even launches to figure out how much they should probably think about putting into this game. But still, that's ridiculous. You get a free thing if you like find out about us early. It's like surprise.
Yeah, that's so hard to do. There's too many games coming out. It's not possible. I think
No.
and I happened to come across Freedom 5, so I knew about coming. But luckily, that one is not mechanically impactful to the game, right? And I think if you're gonna do an early bird, I don't necessarily think that's a good way of going, honestly. But having like the first 72 hours having some cosmetic thing that doesn't impact the gameplay, maybe I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Oh yeah, Snow mentioned the things that you get only by following the game before the campaign begins. I don't like that because it requires you to follow some news. Yeah, exactly. And like I sign up for those newsletters just so I get information to share with you guys.
Mhm.
That's my main reason doing it. If it wasn't for that, I don't know if I'd sign for most of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, strategic pledges from Shifter. It's another version of early board. That's an interesting one. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but that is the pledge from Chip Theory, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna give you a ton of money,
Yeah.
and I get the next X games for free that you guys make.
I almost did that.
You almost did
I
that.
almost did that.
Okay.
And then I decided no. And honestly, I'm fantastically happy I didn't, because when Too Many Bones originally dropped, I thought, oh my gosh, this is gonna be awesome. And I get any game they ever produce again. This is gonna be so cool because
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna make awesome games. I don't own anything from Chip Theory Games.
I don't either.
It's just not my style.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I love the production quality. I think they actually do have good games, and I like the direction they go with their games. It's just not the direction I usually go in when I go to play games. So they just didn't appeal to my tastes. But it was, yeah, that's an interesting pledge level. I mean, imagine if like other games did, like Awakened Realms did something like that, where it's like, hey, for $2,000 you can get this game and any other game we ever make. It's like, whoa. I mean, wow, that's out of control.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my standpoint is, as much as I like specific publishers, I think they make awesome games. I don't know if I want every game from a publisher necessarily. So that's
Yeah.
not for me per se, but I can understand some people's excitement for it.
Right. I mean, like I don't have Great Wall, which is Awakened Realms' latest game that just
Mm-hmm.
came out, I think. And it just wasn't a game that appealed to me. So
It's co-op
having
though.
backed him at like, huh?
It's co-op now. Did you hear?
Yeah, sad I learned about that a little bit late. But so I'd like to maybe get a chance to play it. I don't know again if I would still like it or not, but who knows? I mean, and if they would have had the almighty like everything pledge that Chip Theory Games did, I would probably own it then, because I guarantee you I probably would have thrown who knows how much cash at Awakened Realms just to get my everything pledge if they had one.
Absolutely. Yeah, Snow mentioned the same thing. He says I wouldn't blindly back every game from they make, even if you like the publisher, which I agree in the same way for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's another way of doing kind of early bird, and it seems to be that all of these are trying to generate attention to the game, right? That's ultimately what you're trying to get that upfront visibility to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also a part where we talk about the does this still exist after the game's produced? Because I see this a little bit to an extent. I know in our Discord, Howard Mitch brought this up about, hey, if a game's on sale, for a while, and I miss that sale window, do I not stop buying a game because of that? Because I'm now paying more for the same product, right? And it comes down to that like psychology thing, which is really interesting. So that's why I have the poll going right now in our YouTube live chat. So even if you don't want to comment, feel free to vote in that chat. I'm just curious, like people who are having to catch this live, what are your thoughts? Like if you miss that window, does that prevent you from buying the game? You have to pay more for it. I know from my standpoint, it's not a happy moment per se, but as long as I can still get it, I don't mind if I have to spend a little bit more for it. That's just my
Now
stance.
I'm just the opposite, Steve. I really am. I
Really?
honestly, I don't think there's any game back here that was on Kickstarter that I didn't get from Kickstarter. I don't think
Mm.
I went out of my way to try to pick up a game after after it left Kickstarter. There probably is one. I can't think of what it is, but just because it is tough for me because then I see that Kickstarter. Like there's a game out there I really want to try that I didn't get a chance to. It's called Lifeform,
Oh yeah,
by
yeah.
yeah, and I didn't back it, and I because I think at the time when I originally looked at it, it didn't look like it was going to be like soloable, to competitive or something. Then later, of course, they did put a solo version out, but it was already done. And I was like, dang, that'd really be fun to play. But then I look at the secondary market for it because you can't get it from the publisher, and it's just I'm just like I just don't want to pay that because I look at the price I could have got it for, and I'm like, that's just so hard to swallow that way. It just really hurts. And I was also thinking now I know Kickstarter is a little bit different a platform because they don't have their game ready. But how does this really differ from people that are doing like pre-order bonuses? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's games that do that. For example, if you saw my unboxing of Dune Secrets, a House of Secrets, I just put up, I got two things because I pre-ordered the game. I got these like wooden chips, and I got a whole pamphlet full of stuff that gave the backstory and the characters you're playing, and it also gave a way bigger map you can use. I mean, they were all cosmetic things because you can't really add gameplay to elements to a crime fighting type game, like because it's supposed to be in the same vein as Detective, the modern day crime story from Portal Games.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if I missed the pre-order on that, I'd probably still pick up the game because it wouldn't change what the game was. But
Sure.
I really love the pre-order bonuses. I think they're fantastic. And so games that give you pre-order bonuses because they don't do Kickstarter, what's the difference in that?
Yeah, I think that's probably the same vein, honestly. It's still a bonus,
That's kind
right,
of what
for
I was
doing
thinking.
early. It's still a
Mm-hmm.
window which you can get something additional that
Mm-hmm.
after the fact you may miss out on for what reason. Maybe it's more cost, maybe it's an actual gameplay product, which is the worst, right? If it's game,
Yeah.
and Snow mentioned that in the chat here earlier, the actual gameplay impact, that's the worst, for sure.
Yeah.
Nick's mentioned, he said, I think pre-order is more equal opportunity because the window probably isn't 24 or 48 hours, which
That's
is true,
that's
right?
very true. Yeah,
Right.
I know for the Dune one, it was like I think they had it open for like a couple weeks or something. I can't know the exact number, but I know it was longer than one day for
Well,
sure.
let's play devil's advocate with that. Like, if there's an early bird for a Kickstarter, let's say the Kickstarter was a 3 week campaign, and the first 2 weeks you got an early bird special, right? Early
Right.
bird bonus, or the special, early bird bonus, right, of some kind. Would that be acceptable? Is that like the same thing as a pre-order? I don't know.
I mean, there's even one Kickstarters where it's like, okay, if you pledge for the Kickstarter before like the Kickstarter ends, yeah, magic fly, then you get like this extra miniature like character or whatever. So it now is the entire pledge, the
Right.
entire campaign run of the Kickstarter. But once the Kickstarter ends and you go to late pledge, now you've missed out on it. So
Correct.
there are other there's I've noticed there's so many different ways. There's that early bird 24 hours. There's a 72 hours, a 48 hours, the whole 2 weeks. There's the whole pledge. I mean, there's all different. It seems like there a lot of people have different ways of again driving that revenue that they need to get to show the producer that we got the money, we got the stuff, we're good to go. So there's always that. So yeah, there's all different ways to make this happen.
The other thing I'm starting to see too is it's it's the same product, but during the Kickstarter, if you pledge it while the Kickstarter campaign is actually live, it's a cheaper cost, and during the pledge
Mhm.
and during the PM, the pledge manager after the Kickstarter campaign, the price goes up, right?
Yeah.
To maybe closer retail, maybe something between retail and Kickstarter. I don't know, but yeah, that's yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it makes a lot
Isofarian
of
Guard is doing that. If I remember, Isofarian Guard is just to the point where you can still. I think it's open for another couple weeks or something at their main pledge level. Then they're going to raise it to what the retail price will be.
that's correct. That's correct. Yeah, that's coming. By the way, speaking of that, at the end of this month, Ice of Guard's jumping to the retail level. So if you want to get in on that, back it before end of October 2021.
You want to know how much I want to back that game?
Did you not
So
back it
bad.
yet?
Colin is. So he and I are planning to play it kind of together on the channel and things like that. So but I almost kind of want to get my own copy because I'm like, oh, I want to have it. It
You
looks
might want
so
to.
good.
Speaking of that game, it's supposed to arrive tomorrow for me. Not gonna.
Which one?
Ice of Guard.
All right, I'm getting on a plane.
So I'm on a plane. Come over. yeah. No, Nick, it's all FOMO for sure. Also, they're hitting early birds where you get an increased price in PM. Yeah, we just mentioned that exactly. Um, so let's look at the poll real quick. I'm going to end the poll. Let's see what you guys. Oh, you know what? It's 50-50. Actually, that's interesting. Okay. So yeah, I was curious if that would prevent you from buying things or not, and it's really hard to tell. It's pretty close to 50-50. So would you not purchase a product if you miss an early bird bonus? No for 55%, and yes 44. So pretty even. Pretty even. That's interesting.
It's pretty, but I think a lot of it again then has to come down to what was it?
Yeah.
Was it a foil card that's going to make a guy look cooler? Or was it a complete, like, was it the medic who's a complete game character that you can play and use in the game? Is that what you're missing out on? I think that has to do a lot with what is the early bird.
Yeah, if it's gameplay for sure, and then even if it's gameplay, if it's a monetary difference, right, a large monetary difference, like for me, $10-15, it's fine, right? If it was closer to $30, then okay, now I'm in the no zone potentially, right? So there's a lot of depends in there, but I was just curious what people said. Now, then think about this. It's not what we do normally, but like, what's the purpose of an early bird? It is to get people interested in the game up front, ready to back it right away. The first few days, right? Now, the current trend is the news doesn't get dropped until the day or even an hour after the Kickstarter goes live, right? You see all the reviewers, content creators, they drop the videos then, right? And there's normally or sometimes even like a information embargo, so we can't share anything until that happens. And there's a lot of different ways it can be done. But if that was changed, like if you said, okay, you know what, let's have some content creators instead of dropping on that day, just do a day or two before, right? So people have time to watch the video and see what's about and get excited about it, and then when the Kickstarter launches on that hour, would that generate a big effect of people backing it? Because honestly, some of it is just a delay mechanism where this launch, I don't have time to look at it right now. I'll look in the next couple of days, and then I'll go back and go and back it. I don't know. Just an idea.
That one's hard because if I saw a video a couple days beforehand and it's set up like, oh, and click on this link right here to go to the Kickstarter, and it's not ready yet.
That's true.
Would I go back to watch the video to try to find that link? Or would I just say like, and watch me like, oh yeah, that game was really cool. I'll move on to the other video and another video and watch another video while maybe I decide to paint. So now I watch another video and another video. And then I totally forget about that. Like, and all of a sudden next thing I know, it's like, oh, that's right. There was that game. I forgot about that.
Now, I think the flip to that is on Kickstarter, even if you see the preview page, there's a way to say, hey, notify me on launch, right? So
right. That does make sense. I forgot about that. That's true.
Yeah, so there's an answer there. I don't know, does GameFound have the same thing? I think they do.
I wouldn't doubt they do.
Pretty sure
what they really need is an app is what they need. Because you don't know how many times I get that Kickstarter app on my phone and go, ooh, what's there?
Definitely.
Where GameFound needs an app so I can hit it and go, ooh, what? Well, actually, I'm kind of glad they don't. Or I'd probably have already backed about 3 or 4 more games on GameFound.
Hey Ryan, welcome. Don't worry, you can watch it late. That's fine. Catch up. Hey Nick. So Nick said content creators don't usually mention early birds anyway. I think that's true, and I think that can have to do with when the video is created, especially with VODs, pre-made up front. Can be done up to a week or 2 weeks before the Kickstarter drops, right? To edit that video, that information may not even be known exactly right, or might not even be shared with content creators. So, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of questions around that, right? If you do things closer to the live drop, like if you did a live stream on that day, then it'd be easier to mention it, right? I know, unfortunately, for Keep the Heroes Out, when we did our live stream, it took me about a week after launch to get it on stream because I had other things going on. I had time to read and play it through it and understand myself. Unfortunately, that was after the 72-hour windows. I can
Oh,
mention like, hey, go back this now, right? So it is really hard from a content creator's perspective to drop content within that period to have enough time for you to not only see the content but also respond within that window. It's really really hard to do. So I think that's probably a big factor why it's not mentioned a lot. So Mel mentioned GameFound has Notify 2 like Kickstarter and sometimes offers $5 credit if you sign up for notice.
yeah,
Oh, there we go.
yeah. I've gotten the $5 credit for like I think Nemesis. Trying to think if there's another one I got on there where I got five. I think if I did Robinson Crusoe, I think I got $5 off because I did it early, kind of thing. So
I think that's probably the best, right? It's just $5. It's not huge, but it's something, right? Just something to
mhm.
get people interested. That's probably maybe the best way of doing it, as opposed to
And another good thing for early bird stuff when it comes to the producers again is the fact, like you're saying, getting the thing out the door. How many of
right.
those Kickstarters or game founds have you seen where it says like, "Hey, if we get 1,000 Facebook likes, we get 1,000 like uh, board game geek likes, things like this." All of a sudden, that first day, like you said, you get this huge influx for that free product, and boom, on top of that, that extra push on all those different social media platforms from all the people that have already backed it that really helps a lot as opposed to people that maybe are on the fence, not sure, kind of thing. Now they know they want it to succeed, so they've already pushed it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the social goals, right?
Yeah,
Like leverage those social goals instead of doing a gameplay or cosmetic implication to the game, right? To
yeah,
get that news that people talking about more. That's true.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think it's to get fully funded hype early to build FOMO. Yeah, exactly. I think
yeah.
you're right, Mel. I think you're right.
Hmm. For sure.
Yeah, trying to get that FOMO, trying to get people to jump on. Well, look how many people are backing this. I need to look into this more, right?
Yeah,
If it's only got a little bit of attention or hasn't backed or funded in the first 24 hours, people might forget about it because there's always something new around the corner to draw attention away from this stuff and always things to forget, right? And that's why if you look at all the content that generally gets made, it's all about new games, right? Because there's always something new to draw attention to. But sometimes it's good to come back to old games too. So Snow mentioned for $5 or $15 discount is okay in her eyes. So it's either just a discount or stuff for free. I can buy anyway. That's true. That's true. Cool. That is what I wanted to talk about. I don't have other talking points I want to bring up. I think it's a weird issue, and I feel kind of I don't know. I understand why it's done. I don't think it affects my buying purchases as much personally. I know Bairnt, you said it does for you.
yes and no.
Yes or no?
It doesn't most of the time when it comes to actually the Kickstarter. It'd be cool to get all the stuff. The thing it really, I think the part that really hurts me is when I miss the game completely, and then just the actual like cost of it goes up extra. Steve, I can't talk. Basically, trying to buy it after Kickstarter when it's really expensive is not my deal. I'm not a big fan of that. But usually, anything inside of Kickstarter, I will, even if I miss the day one thing, I'll still at least I'll give it a big look and really think about it. And most of the time, if it's a game I'm really interested in, I probably already knew it was coming and have already instantly backed it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and Snow mentioned that could be a main reason if Kickstarter catch people early, it usually doesn't fund, which is true. Some of them, well, can be true, I would say, because I know the 48-hour mark you get a big boost too. So generally in the first 2 days and last 2 days you get the that's where you get hit, and then like you said earlier, Snow, there's a lot of silence. There's a very slow growth in between that. And so
Mm-hmm.
trying to capture those ends and try to get the most you can during those points where people are really checking it out are super important. So, which is interesting because the 48-hour mark is when those notifications come out. So, it it seems to imply, getting back to my comment earlier about could you do this earlier and set notifications? You might be able to make it work. But it sounds like only when you get notified of this launching, people tend to back it. It's not a whole lot of people come back in the middle of the campaign to back a project. Generally, well, not as many. Put that way. So okay, cool. That's all I had to discuss today. You guys are awesome on chat. Baron, thanks for joining. Love having you here.
It's always great to be here, Steve. Thank you very much for everybody in the chat. Love to hear from you all. It's amazing to have the support that we do. I love doing these things, and then you're the guys that you are the people that make it fun for us.
Absolutely. And you got a new game I saw on your channel. You just unboxed it the other day. Can we talk about that real quick?
Yes, I have Dune House of Secrets. I'm playing it on Friday next week with my gaming group, so we're going to give it a shot. It's in the same vein as that detective game, so it'll be really fun. And I've got a new folklore video coming soon, and I've got what else have I got? I had the week off, Steve, so I recorded a lot of fun stuff. So I've got some videos coming up pretty soon. I may even have another Aliens game coming up.
Ooh, awesome. Yeah, I think this week I might have to change the schedule a little bit for streaming. I know I normally do Monday, Wednesday. We do Friday and Saturday. Friday's always Marvel Champions, but I might do X Men Monday. I might keep that the same. I might skip Wednesday instead, maybe that Thursday potentially. Push that back a little bit. I'm trying to figure out exactly. I'll post the schedule later, but I want to get Isofarian Guard in front of you guys' eyes as soon as I can. So I might move the schedule a little bit to give myself enough time to understand it and prepare for that one. So I can get that to you this coming week. That's my goal. So yeah, lots of new stuff coming out all the time. And thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, exclusive cool. Cool. Well, we'll end it and we'll have another chat next week. So thanks for joining. We'll see you at the next stop. Bye bye.
Take care.